The only natural satellite that orbits the world continuously is the Moon, also referred to as the Earth's moon. In terms of the size of the planet it orbits, it is the largest planetary satellite and the sixth largest satellite in the solar system. It is believed to have been formed when a huge boulder struck the planet shortly after the solar system began to form, about 4.5 billion years ago. The Moon was discovered in 1610. From Earth, it is 384,400 kilometers distant. The Moon got underway with a collision. The popular hypothesis is that the Moon was formed in a violent event between the proto-Earth, an early-stage Earth that was much bigger than it is now, and an object, called Theia, roughly the size of Mars, says Robert Massey, Deputy Executive Director of the Royal Astronomical Society. Launched into space, debris eventually formed the Moon. According to recent research, the Moon is made up of crustal material from the early Earth. The giant impact hypothesis postulates that the impact, which is assumed to have occurred 4.5 billion years ago, was 100 million times more powerful than the catastrophe that wiped off the dinosaurs. In the past, it seemed much bigger. The Moon was originally 10 times closer to Earth than it is today, according to Massey. When you look up in the night sky, try to imagine the Moon being 10 times bigger. The Moon may have even been 12 to 19 times closer than it is currently, at a distance of about 20,000 to 30,000 kilometers as compared to 384,000 kilometers, according to computer studies. And the rotation continues. Due to an energy transfer from the Earth's rotation and tidal bulges, the Moon recedes 3.78 centimeters from the Earth annually. That resembles the rate at which your fingernails grow. The smell of moon dust is powdery. According to Massey, the Apollo astronauts found that their suits were covered in dust from the Moon's surface when they entered their lunar modules. An astronaut on the Apollo 17 mission named Harrison Jack Schmitt compared the smell to that of gunpowder. Due to the dust, some astronauts developed a type of lunar hay fever. The congestion and sneezing didn't go away for days. The good news is that there isn't a breeze to blow it around, says Massey. Heat levels on the surface exceed boiling. The Moon lacks a protective atmosphere, thus the surface experiences tremendous temperatures, ranging from the far side, known as the night, which is extremely cold, to the near side, known as the sunny, which is extremely hot. According to NASA, the Moon's temperature can vary from 123 degrees Celsius to minus 233 degrees Celsius. Its normal surface temperature fluctuates between minus 153 and 107 degrees Celsius throughout the day. The history of space is hidden in these craters. Because it is not protected from meteorites by an atmosphere, the Moon's profusion of craters, in Massey's opinion, makes it feasible to examine the natural history of the solar system. The Moon has millions of impact craters, including 5,000 with a diameter of more than 20 kilometers. In contrast, there are just 190 documented impact craters on Earth, many of which are submerged in water and vegetation. Due to its inert surface and the fact that it experiences less geological activity than the Earth, such as volcanic eruptions or erosion, the Moon neatly preserves flawless traces of ancient buildings and craters. As a result, it makes a fantastic study facility or archive for studies of our solar system. The same side is always used to observe the Moon. The Moon rotates on its axis, much like the Earth does, but because this rotation only lasts about 27 days, or nearly the same number of days as the 27.32 that it takes for the Moon to orbit the Earth, you can only see one side of the Moon at a time. This phenomena, also known as tidal locking or caught rotation, according to Massey, indicates that the opposite side of the Moon was entirely obscured before the invention of spaceflight. In contrast to the near side, which has lunar maria, vast, dark plains that usually conceal impact basins, the far side is more cratered and rugged, has a thicker crust, and shows less evidence of volcanic activity. Tidal bulges related to the moon, lunar bases, the craters holding space history, and a stunning fact about the moon. Simply put, according to Massey, the gravitational force of the moon generates bulges in the water on Earth. The moon effectively causes water to rise on one side of the Earth, while the opposite happens on the other, where its gravitational pull is weaker. The bulges move around the oceans as the Earth rotates, producing high and low tides all throughout the world. Without the moon, we would still experience tides, though they would be less apparent as sun gravity also influences tides. Scientists have discovered moon water. NASA has found water in the soil, while India's Chandrayaan-1 mission discovered water close to the poles of the moon, according to Massey. Even if it's not much, you might only be able to extract a liter from a cubic meter of soil. It opens the door to future bases being built on the moon. A moon eclipse saved Christopher Columbus. According to Massey, the oldest known human map to depict the moon is a bronze item called the Nebra sky disk, which was found in Germany and dates to 1600 BC. This discovery serves as a reminder of the moon's significance in influencing human history. Due to the moon, not even the intrepid Christopher Columbus experienced starvation. Using his almanac to anticipate the moon eclipse of February 29, 1504, Columbus used fear to persuade the Arawak Indians of Jamaica to provide food for him and his crew. His son Ferdinand wrote that after watching the eclipse, the Arawaks came running from every direction to the ships stocked with food with loud crying and grief. Lunar bases are getting close. Massey thinks that soon there might be scientific bases there, similar to the Antarctic research stations, even though it will be centuries before there are many humans living there now. NASA hopes to return astronauts to the moon by the end of the 2020s. According to planetary scientists, a colony may be used for a number of things, such as advancing the search for organic materials or building a radio telescope that is shielded from Earth so that it can more effectively listen for extraterrestrial signals. The surface of the moon, which is larger than all of Europe and Africa combined, has hardly been scratched by us. The moon is moving away from Earth. It is true that the moon is moving away from the Earth. It moves away from our planet by around 3.8 centimeters per year. It is anticipated that it will continue to do so for at least another 50 billion years. On the moon, there is no atmosphere. Unlike the Earth, the moon does not have an atmosphere. This suggests that the moon is not protected from solar winds, meteorites, or cosmic rays, and that it undergoes large temperature variations. There is no atmosphere on the moon, thus there is no sound, and the sky is always dark. The moon always shows the same side of itself to Earth. For those of us on Earth, the moon's face never changes. This is brought on by the moon's synchronous rotation with Earth. Its near side is defined by broad black plains, volcanic maria, that fill the spaces between the prominent impact craters and the light ancient crustal highlands. In the 1950s, the USA considered launching a nuclear bomb on the moon. It is true that in 1950, the United States intended to use a nuclear bomb to destroy the moon. Project A-119, also known as a study of lunar research flights, was a top-secret endeavor during the height of the Cold War that was meant as a show of force at a time when they were lagging in the space race. Only 12 people have ever walked on the moon. There have only been 12 people who have set foot on the moon in human history. Gene Cernan's involvement in the Apollo 17 mission in 1972 marked its conclusion after Neil Armstrong's participation in the Apollo 11 mission in 1969. It's noteworthy that all 12 of the people were Americans. The moon's surface is actually very black. Its reflectance is only a little higher than that of cracked asphalt, despite the fact that it appears exceptionally bright when compared to the night sky. Its gravitational pull is responsible for the ocean tides, body tides, and the slight lengthening of the day. The moon was created when a rock struck Earth. The most widely accepted explanation states that shortly after the solar system began to form 4.5 billion years ago, a rock the size of Mars collided with Earth, creating the moon. The moon moves the Earth along with the tides. Everyone is aware that the sun and moon interact to affect the tides in the Earth's oceans and seas. The moon's orbit around the Earth does, however, cause the tide of rock to rise and fall, much like it does with water. Since each tide causes the Earth's solid surface to move by several centimeters, even though the effect is not as dramatic as it is with the seas, it is still measurable. That was for today. Thank you for staying with us. Don't forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel.